This time on episode 327 of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., we talk Jessica Jones, Season 2, Episode 11, aka 3 Lives and Counting, and Season 2, Episode 12, aka Pray for My Patsy, and we talk weekly Marvel news.
I'm Stephen John Drew from the official GonnaGeek.com show, a weekly geek news podcast that is a part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned, and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other awesome geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
You have been granted clearance by director Alfonso Mack Mackenzie. Stand by for a S.H.I.E.L.D. debriefing. All information to be discussed here is classified and may only be discussed among agents granted clearance by the S.H.I.E.L.D. director.
Now it's time for your scheduled debriefing. I'm Director SP.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
Welcome to Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a Marvel Comic Universe fan show. The show is recorded on Sunday, April 12th, 2020, live from the Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. studios, and broadcast worldwide via www.geeks.live. Come and join our live chat and chat with us as we record. Ladies, happy National Licorice Day.
Okay, so red licorice for me, yes. Black licorice, not a fan.
That's an important note. Even though the day is called Happy National Licorice Day or National Licorice Day, it was originally designed for black licorice, which I'm not a fan.
Twizzlers, licorice or no?
It's more like candy. It's a candied licorice.
Yeah, there's, I forget the brand, but it's like Australian red licorice. Super good.
So National Licorice Day came about in 2004 when the Licorice International, in coordination with the National Confectionaires Association, designated April 12th as National Licorice Day. And the company, Licorice International, offers nearly 100 types of licorice from all over the world.
Good.
Yeah, I guess it's a PR move to get people to try to eat, some nasty ass flavors, but it's
I think
some
this
of it's
is
good.
part of the National Day calendar selling out. I think that's part of it.
Do you think that they have they take money like Guinness Book of World Records does?
Oh, absolutely. Why would you not?
It's all big calendar.
Yeah. It's all just about the money. Anyway,
Yep.
Now that we've denigrated the wonderful National Day calendar that we have been going for this for years, let's move on for the rest of the show. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a fan-based podcast on the ABC television show Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., the multiple Marvel small screen series, and the Marvel cinematic and comic book universes in general.
Because of imaginary David Tennants.
If you would like to talk to us about the amazing David Tennant, you can visit our website, legendsofshield.com.
You can send us a voicemail at 844-THE-BUS-1. That's 844-843-2871.
Find us on Facebook, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. Podcast.
Find us on Twitter at Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D.
Watch us on YouTube at youtube.com/GonnaGeek.
Tell your Amazon device to enable Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. skill.
And remember, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is a proud member of the GonnaGeek.com network.
Agent Haley isn't with us here today. I suspect that she is still having hardware trouble, so we're hoping to see her next week. In the meantime, let's get on with our penultimate Season 2 Jessica Jones episode. And here we go. Jessica Jones Season 2 Episode 11, aka 3 Lives and Counting, and Season 2 Episode 12, aka Pray for My Patsy, premiered on Netflix March 8th, 2018, just over 2 years ago. Michelle, who was the creative team behind aka 3 Lives and Counting?
This episode was directed by Jennifer Lynch, who has 42 directing credits starting in 1993, including 3 episodes of Psych, 1 Warehouse 13, 4 Teen Wolf, 1 of the Last Ship, 2 Salem, 1 Jessica Jones, 1 Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., 2 Elementary, 1 Daredevil, and 5 episodes of 911. This episode has 2 writers. First one, Lisa Randolph, who has 10 writing credits starting in 2002, including 2 episodes of The Shield, 7 Being Human, 4 Reign, 2 Star Trek Discovery, and 4 episodes of Jessica Jones. It was written by Jack Kenny, 14 writing credits starting in 1987, including 2 of The Secret World of Alex Mack, 6 Dave's World, 3 Titus, 3 Book of Daniel, 7 episodes of Warehouse 13, 2 Falling Skies, and 3 Jessica Jones.
Okay, little known fact, I have recently delved into Star Trek Discovery. I know, a lot of people have said, SP, you have said that you're not going to get CBS All Access because you refuse to pay for it. Well, when Patrick Stewart came along and gave a free month out to everybody to watch Picard, I went ahead and picked it up. And after I finished Picard, I decided, well, let's get through Discovery. Now I'm most of the way through season 1 of Discovery, and it's okay. I'm glad I didn't pay for it, but it's okay. So I think, Michelle, you're watching Discovery too, or you have watched Discovery?
When I got like a free week when Discovery just finished, and then when the new month came out, it's for new people. So I used a new email.
Sure.
And I got the free month. First off, my mom watches The Good Fight, The Good Wife spinoff. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, she watches that. And then she watched Discovery. She watched both seasons. I just started season 2 of Discovery because I just binged Picard. So I got finished with Picard this weekend.
Well, I got to hurry to get through it because it's about 15 episode seasons and you just can't do that one a night and get through the free month. So I'm trying to do at least 2 a night. I don't know if I'm going to make it or not. So we'll see. It's a race. I'll let you know when I get to the 25th, whether or not it happens. It's the 12th now. So I got to pick up the pace a little bit here. Lauren, have you seen either Picard or Discovery?
I have not, but my friend who's coming over for dinner, I know social distancing, but we only see each other. And she's not coming from that far, but we're having Easter dinner together. And she loves Picard, loves Discovery. So we're going to borrow her login. And then because there's a bunch of other stuff that I want to see on there, I'm pretty sure that whenever the new season of either comes around, we're going to be buying it for at least a month. But yeah, right now we have so many, we have Hulu, we have Amazon, we have Netflix, and it's like...
I know. One of the things that I'm glad I got the 3-month for is you could have chosen the commercials or the commercial-free version. And since I wasn't paying it for it anyway, I went ahead and chose the commercial-free version. I'm so glad I did. I can see where the commercials will be in both Picard and in Discovery, but I'm so glad that I don't have to go through them because I would be more than aggravated having to pay for the service and watch commercials, because that's the whole thing about the service that I didn't want to do anyway. I didn't want to have to pay for something that I believe should be on TV anyway. But after watching it, I mean, it's higher production value than I would have expected from a TV, so I kind of get it. But if it's going to be the only thing, then at the very least, it only deserves like a month of your money, and then you get out of it and do something else. But they're transitioning out of CBS All Access into some sort of Warner Brothers larger package that should be out later this year. So we'll see. Anyway, I completely derailed us. I'm sorry about that. But Lauren, why don't you go ahead and run down the creative team for Pray for My Patsy?
Sure thing. This was directed by Liz Friedlander, who has 65 directing credits starting in 1995, including 4 episodes of One Tree Hill, 1 of Pretty Little Liars, 3 of The Vampire Diaries, 4 of Sleepy Hollow, 1 of The Gifted, 1 of Jessica Jones, 2 of Tell Me a Story, and 2 of The Rookie. And this episode was also written by a team. First off, we have Hilly Hicks Jr., who has 7 credits starting in 2002, including 1 of Army Wives, 3 of The Big C, 6 of Chicago Fire, 1 of Feed the Beast, and 6 of Jessica Jones. and the other writer is Raelle Tucker, who has 9 writing credits starting in 2004, including 2 of Eyes, 8 of Supernatural, 11 of True Blood, 2 of Jessica Jones, and 2 of Sacred Lies.
And Jessica Jones is based on the Marvel comic of the same name by Brian Michael Bendis and Michael Gaydos. Okay, Lauren, aka 3 Lives and Counting. What is the theme of the episode based on the title?
Well, I could make a joke, but I couldn't think of any. So it's, again, as all the Jessica Jones episode titles are, quotes from the episode. This one is in reference to the number of people that Jessica has killed, because we pick up with her having just killed
Dale.
Dale, that's his name. I knew it started with a D. I was like, Dennis? No. But Dale, the really terrible, sadistic prison guard. And after him, well, he's, again, her third life that she's taken. We started with, I forget her name, in season 1, Luke Cage's ex-wife. Then Kilgrave himself. And now Dale.
It's a lot for her. It's so much for her that she starts seeing somebody that I'm glad we had a chance to see on screen, but I know she was not glad at all for seeing in her head. We'll get to that in a second. So, Michelle, what is the theme for Pray for My Patsy?
Well, Trish ends up in the hospital, and Dorothy, she gets stopped by a reporter. The reporter is just, take control of her narrative. And Dorothy spins a tale. And of course, instead of saying, pray for my daughter or pray for Trish, it's pray for my Patsy.
Yeah, she's definitely looking at spin there. So we'll get into that. So, of course, Jessica Jones does take the life of Dale. We talked about it last time. Dale probably deserved it, if anybody deserved it. And she has to get rid of the body. She gets rid of the body. And then all of a sudden she sees a slow clap applauding Kilgrave, aka David Tennant. And I thought maybe this might be in and out throughout the rest of the series, but it was focused on this episode. I don't know if we'll see David Tennant in the final episode or not. I would think not, but I think he did a wonderful job of playing a cross between Kilgrave and like a detective himself, which is very much the Doctor Who character. So he was seeing in her mind, and she was bringing him up. I want to ask you ladies, what did you think of that? Because it's obviously coming from Jessica. It's not coming from an external force. Lauren, what did you think about the whole thing?
Well, he's very obviously the externalization of her guilt, her shame, just like every negative emotion that she has. It's the little voice in your head that tells you that you're a terrible person and you're doing bad things. Except that because this is TV, we can have a visualization of David Tennant doing it. Which is not to say that you can't have hallucinations, because people do have hallucinations. But because it's TV, we're assuming they're taking some liberties. And I didn't realize he was going to show up in person. I had seen, David Tennant as the voice of Kilgrave, and I figured it was going to be kind of what we've heard to this point, just like the little whispers every now and then. But having him show up as a full head Kilgrave, hey, they're going to do a BSG marathon on Sci-Fi soon, yay. But having that, it's, again, bringing back that dynamic back in from season 1, the very antagonistic, he's manipulating her. But in this case, we, the audience, know this is the externalization of her own mind, trying to protect itself, trying to accuse herself. Yeah, she's just having a rough time of it.
Yeah, who do you think would win in an externalization fight between David Tennant and Baltar?
Ooh.
It's the head Baltar, too, that I'm talking about, not the Baltar, because that was an externalization as well.
Okay, so are we going head Baltar as an actual angel, or are we just going hallucination Baltar?
Let's stick with hallucination.
Okay.
Make it equal grounds here.
In that case, Kilgrave. Kilgrave is... I mean, Baltar was just kind of a slimy guy, but it was all self-preservation. Kilgrave, though, is just malignant. He ruins lives because he's twisting things for his wants, and he knows that he's doing it. There's no attempt to, like, scramble out of it and thus make things worse like Baltar did. It's just straightforward. I want, I take, I don't care.
And listener, if you don't understand what we're saying, in the spring of 2020, Sci-Fi Channel, Skiffy, has actually gone ahead and streamed all of the Battlestar Galactica 2003. I think technically the series started in 2004, but the miniseries was 2003 of Battlestar Galactica. We call it BSG. And you can find all about Baltar by watching all 5 seasons of that. So have fun with that.
I thought it was only 4 seasons.
Well, they broke up 4 into 2.
Yeah, there was like 3.5.
Yeah. So, Michelle, how did you like the multiplicity of Kilgraves?
Well, here you have Jessica. If you notice, all throughout this season, she's been saying, I'm not a killer. I'm not a killer. I'm not a killer. And then all of a sudden, she's a killer. And the trauma that triggers, and I think it's interesting, it's not Kilgrave, because Kilgrave's dead. It's that section of her mind that Kilgrave occupied, combined with all of this stress that she's dealing with. And she's having racing thoughts throughout this whole thing. What am I going to do? How am I going to... Do I call the cops? No. Okay. He's there. No, make it look like a suicide and all this sort of deal. And it sort of it's a callback to a previous episode where she's just like, let me think. And she has all these thoughts. And it's interesting about how it becomes all these Kilgraves. And it was fascinating watching David Tennant play the Kilgrave that Jessica has in her mind that is actually constructed of part of Kilgrave, but all of those extra demons. I thought that was very fascinating.
I just enjoyed it, and I was wondering where it was going to go, but I enjoyed it. And then at the very end, he's like, I'll be here if you need me, sort of thing. I'm like, okay, well, we'll see if we ever see him back again. But I thought at that point, we might be done for the season, especially that was her way of saying, I don't need you anymore. Get out of here.
Well, it's her saying to that part of your brain whether you call them demons or gremlins or
brainworms.
Yeah, brainworms, whatever you call them, that's what Kilgrave. She actually has a face and a body for hers. It's Kilgrave. And it's that part of her brain going, well, if you need to go down this dark, troubling path again, this complete self-preservation flight mode is that combination of like she's fighting, but she's trying to retreat as well. I'll be here when you have another break in your brain. I'll be here.
It's like a poisonous coping mechanism almost. Anybody who's ever had just those like horrible, invasive thoughts, how you think it'll go away, and then all it takes is just a low moment and they're back. And it's those, I don't remember who I saw say it, but there was somebody who's saying there's like a solace in being at your rock bottom. It's like a horrible thick blanket to pull over yourself. And it's not healthy and it's not helpful, but it's the devil that you know. And I think he is the devil that she knows.
I thought it was interesting that she was speaking to herself, basically, and Kilgrave wasn't there in person. And what I thought was interesting with that is it was in the middle of New York City, and people are actually looking at her weird, like this is something that is not expected. She's got big poofy hair. She could have one of those AirPods, those Apple AirPods, without any wires or anything, in her ear or ears, and it covered by her hair, which completely covers her ears. And she could be talking to, I don't understand what the looks are for, because, yeah.
Two things. First of all, everybody I know who's ever lived in New York for any amount of time is like, no, you keep walking. You pay it no mind. People yelling at themselves is just like a dime a dozen. And having visited New York, I mean, yeah, kind of. And the other thing is, when you said that, I started thinking of that meme from a few months ago, oh God, oh frack, they can't hear us, they have their AirPods in right before something like terrible happens.
Now, I can't remember when the AirPods came out. This was created and filmed in 2015. It was released in 2016. So I can understand maybe the AirPods not being there. Bluetooth has been around for a very, very long time, and she could have had Bluetooth in her ear. So it doesn't really, I just realized I might have made a little faux pas because of years, since we're actually podcasting about this in 2020 and it came out.
You can still have just the small little in-ear buds. And then, I mean, I used to do that, you just kind of hide them and get like a dark colored one if you have dark hair. And then if you have longer hair, it goes over that.
Okay, so this was filmed 2017, 2018, because this is season 2. AirPods came out in 2016. So it's completely reasonable that she could have had somebody, even though she's got an Android phone. I get it, people.
2016? Are you serious?
Yeah, first generation released December 13th, 2016. Second generation, March 20th, 2019. Yeah. Amazing, right? Anyway.
I don't like it.
That is what I thought of there. I don't understand what the looks are for. I was born in New York. You get that sort of stuff all the time. Anyway. Now, one thing that I have not had experience with ever is I've never used a dating app. Nope, never used Tinder, never used anything like that, because when I was dating was pre-existing of smartphones. Got married after smartphones really came out. However, I realize that a lot of people use them. I realize a lot of people use them to hook up that are even married or in committed relationships, whatever. I get all that. I have not used one. It was interesting to me to know that you could use it with multiple people to triangulate somebody and therefore breach the lack of privacy on the phone.
So there's this phenomenon that's been happening since cell phones became a thing, and especially since smartphones became a thing. Writers for TV, for movies, for books, because, we're all basically of the time we came of age in, part of your mind stays stuck back there. So there's always, I think TV Tropes has a page for it of plots that just ignore the fact that phones and the internet and smartphones and everything exist. One thing that I really like about Jessica Jones is, and all the Marvel shows actually, is that not only do they exist, but they can be a plot point. For exactly I've never used Tinder or anything, but I do know that, Tinder, Grindr, etc., they have so-and-so is this far away from you. And again, Jessica is a detective, and we get to see her being a detective because, yeah, she's tough, but she's also smart. And I mean, you gotta learn how to do these things.
And Michelle, particularly, I was laughing at some of the conversations she was having with some of these women, because they seemed to be fine with Jessica actually talking to them about, so how'd you get my number? Where is this from? I'm talking to you from this app, and I'm trying to find out where Malcolm is, and I'm concerned about him using again. He was a recovering user, and I'm concerned about him. I don't think those conversations would really happen. Am I off base there?
No, yeah. Jessica has a way of, we've seen it all season, of being able to pick up a phone, which is something I'm awful on the phone. Here's someone who's awful in person, in interpersonal, but she gets on the phone and she can lie about being someone's driver and needing to pick them up, or I'm going to give somebody an award. Can you give me a quote about them? Her being able to use what she knows about Malcolm and the way she can phrase everything she kept going, I'm afraid for him. I'm afraid he's going to go on a bender. I'm afraid he's somewhere. Oh gosh, I just don't want to see him be awful. The way she was phrasing everything, it's like, oh, of course I need to help because I want to help Malcolm, even though we may have hooked up once and he forgot my name. But I don't want somebody to die because I decided not to, talk about them.
And again, we're talking about this in the spring of 2020, and this was filmed in late 2017, early 2018. Since then, actually, it's always been a thing, but since then, privacy has been a huge issue with all these apps and the data that they collect, particularly with like Google and Apple, but any app now, privacy. I mean, we have the whole privacy law in Europe. You have California having a privacy law. And now, just in the last couple of weeks, they're talking and implementing in some countries apps that will track your exposure, your potential exposure to other carriers of COVID-19. And there's a big deal about privacy. How long is that information going to be sustained? How are they actually tracking that information? Is it by your position? No, it's actually proximity of devices. Well, somebody could go into that data and isolate an individual. I get all that. So I just want to say that I understand the privacy issues that are going on with just data in general and cell phones. However, this was done a couple years ago. This series was done a couple years ago, and people were more trusting with that information a couple years ago.
Even with that, though, I mean, all it takes is a little know-how of where to look. I personally have a friend we thought was in danger, and about half an hour, I'd track down their name and address. I mean, on very little information. All you really need to do is know where to look. And again, like Jessica does, if you have to talk to a person, you just kind of have to feel them out. This is not advice. This is not advice. This is just an explanation.
At least you said feel them out versus feel them up.
Hard to do over the phone.
Don't be like Malcolm and Jessica by going into each other's computers and into each other's locations and such. She was upset with Malcolm, rightfully so, because she figures out that he went into a computer, found out, and is helping Trish. And she feels betrayed because she told her mom Trish has nothing to do with Carl. And then all those awful events happen, but we're not there yet.
Yeah, and then that ultimately leads to Malcolm officially getting fired and officially quitting, although we'll see what happens in the last episode. But this was something that was building all season long, and there was a lot of you're fired, but he comes back the next day. And I think this is more permanent, and I think he understood that, which is why he said he quit. But we'll see what happens. Talking about privacy and surveillance, I thought Trish was really naive when the fan took the photo of them, and she didn't give it a second thought. Now she's hopped up on the remnants of the drug, I guess, or in withdrawal, and just isn't thinking straight. I get all that, but I mean, she should have thought that if somebody's going to take a picture, that could lead to bad things.
Yeah, I wouldn't say naive. I would say, like you said, very distracted. Again, she's a junkie, desperately looking for her next fix. And people with addictions will overlook things, go through all sorts of lengths as long as they see that next hit in front of them. And yeah, again, like we were just talking about the use of modern technology in the show, the fact that there was that fan who put up the picture and then it ends up online, that's a big concern. Tracking people via, Instagram posts and stuff like that, that's a big concern. And in this case, instead of leading to a stalker, well, I guess it kind of does lead to a stalker, just of a different kind,
Yeah, kind of the assassin stalking.
Yeah.
And talking about Trish, she is definitely wanting to gain some superpowers. And it was interesting that she later divulged why. She was talking about how she had felt helpless in the midst of everything, in the midst of an abusive mother or a controlling mother, in the midst of Jessica having superpowers. She didn't say abusive director, but that could also have been there. I mean, we talked about that earlier in the season with her director was very abusive to her. And she wanted to not be helpless anymore. And she really wanted to do this. It turns out, and if we were living in this world, I could see this too, that there was a bunch of back alley doctors trying to replicate superpower serums. And so Carl agrees to give her a superpower, really because I think he just wanted to see if all of his assessments over the years, decades really, had improved. And he was all for actually doing it, even though knowing the risk. And Trish knew the risk as well. I don't know if Trish was thinking clearly if she would have gone through with it or not, but she wanted to. So let's talk about that. Let's talk about Trish and her desires, and let's talk about Carl and his desires and his wishes. So, Michelle, who do you want to pick, Carl or Trish?
All season long, Trish has been talking about how she's wanting to be the hero, told Jessica that she needs to start helping people, needing to feel special. Dorothy even mentions about how Trish needs to be something more. And even before the inhaler, Trish has wanted powers. There was even hints of it in the first season. Trish has been jealous of Jessica about it. It's really interesting about how there's that whole saying about the grass is greener on the other side. Jessica has been, even though Dorothy's an awful mother, at least Trish had a mom. But Trish is like, you're a superhero. You need to go out there and save everybody because that's what heroes do. And I would be a hero. I want to be a hero. I am not a fan of Trish.
Yeah, she's been making it very hard to have sympathy for her lately.
So, Lauren, you've been known as the lab rat. Would you go underneath Carl and his experiments here?
I was about to say, oh, hell no. But I've made it no secret. I have a chronic condition that causes me a lot of pain. In fact, I've missed the past several months of recording because at times I couldn't even sit up. So if it was, hey, we have this experimental procedure that might fix this, I might give it a second thought. But I feel like there's a difference between wanting to not live at like an 8 out of 10 on the pain scale and wanting to feel special. And I also, when you were mentioning about how Carl was kind of like, well, why did he do this? I think you could also view him as another addict. In his case, he's addicted to the theory of it all. And he doesn't have his lab rat there with him anymore. I mean, yes, they were married. Yes, he loves her. But I also think that on another level, she was kind of an accessory, a prop, a victim. And that's, again, it's one of the things that this show does so well, but also makes it very hard to watch, is the intersection of different kinds of abuses and the cycle of abuse. And it's what Trish does, I think she sees as trying to break that cycle. She wants to be powerful. She wants to be the center of attention in a way that is all about her and not about her mother. And in reality, she's just using that to kind of wreck the lives of the people around her. Jessica, Malcolm, Alisa.
Yeah, Carl definitely had made a conscious decision to close down the clinic because he felt like he was being abused by the system, the doctors, the military, whatever. And he wanted to help humanity, and he was focused on that. Help Alisa, help humanity, very focused on that. And that seemed to blind him of all the other issues that might come out of his, especially what happens with Trish. I mean, the whole thing happens during the procedure where Jessica comes in the middle of it. She stops the procedure. I don't know if she would have stopped the procedure if he would have been able to save, if Carl would have been able to save Trish or not. So I'm thinking no. I'm thinking the procedure wasn't working for a lot of different variables, and it was doomed from the start personally, but Carl was blind to that. He just, okay, let's do this. Let's see what we got, because this was his one chance within 15 years or whatever it was in order to actually do something. So I think he's blinded to it.
So a lot of really horrible stuff comes from very good intentions. There are so many experiments back in the 40s, the 30s, of the 50s, of scientists who wanted to make, child rearing better. And you had things like the Skinner box. You had things like that experiment where they took monkeys from their mothers and put them in with a mesh mother in kind of the approximate shape of a female chimpanzee. And in some of them put a layer of fur on it. And those monkeys would just cling to that fur until they died because they wanted human contact. There was, just every generation has its different, oh, this is how you need to do it to lessen the trauma on your child. And so much of the attempts to lessen trauma end up increasing it because there's things that we don't know about. And I think that Carl might have had the best of intentions. He wanted to fix people. He wanted to heal people. He wanted to improve people. But as we've seen, all of his experiments have been flawed. He just, again, it's that, and you end up ruining lives even with your best of intentions because you don't have all that information and because of the human element to things. And Jessica's a victim, Trish is a victim, Alisa's a victim. I think even Carl, to some extent, is a victim because of his own naivety in regards to that. I don't see him at this point of the information that we have of being malicious, which is a change compared to the actual character Carl Mallis in the comics, who's, an evil mad scientist who gene splices people, and it's all bad. But it's still, things just end up poorly.
Okay, so we have a lot of experimentation going on. And just because I recently watched a Nova episode that had some experimenting going on, the Caledonian Crow experiment, malevolent or benevolent?
I don't
What
remember.
is it?
Yeah, I don't remember which that is.
Something that you do. Okay, so there was testing the brain power, the Caledonian Crow, and they taught the crow different things in order to get. It's amazing. I'll send you a link. I'll put a link in the show notes to a couple of YouTube videos that I saw about the Caledonian Crow experiment. Totally sidetracked there. Let's move on to Alisa. At the end, she sees the news report of Carl basically being killed in the major explosion or fire of the clinic, and she gets fixated on who she thinks was the cause of it, which was Trish. And in order to get to Trish, she's got to break out of prison. And in order to break out of prison, she kills this really nice guard that took over for Dale. They don't know what happened with Dale all this day yet, but so Alisa ends up killing her, and then I don't know what else she did to get out of prison, but basically did her superpower thing, knocked down doors, whatever. Was very focused on getting out. Very powerful escape, and kind of the escape that you would see from a monster as they're getting out of their cage. That was very powerful and telling of where we're going to go in the next couple of episodes. Anything you want to say about her fixation or her escape, Michelle or Lauren?
think it's interesting that Trish Chalk's posters were already being torn down. It's one of those things where Carl could have said no to Trish. Trish could have been like, maybe I shouldn't have superhero powers. Carl choosing to end his own life over leaving, like he said he was going to, giving Alisa hope. He basically doesn't even think of Alisa at the end. He just thinks about himself, which is interesting. Of course, Alisa's going to think that it's Trish. It's also compounded by the fact that Jessica said Trish wasn't involved. So Carl is gone. Jessica, she feels Jessica betrayed her and was covering for Trish. She had to get rid of Trish, not only because she hurt Carl, but also she's supposed to be hurting Jessica. Fortunately, Jessica was able to get through to her, but then the cops come and poor Sunday. I liked Sunday.
The two detectives were, they were antagonistic towards Jessica, but Sunday didn't deserve to go out the window like that.
Yeah, it's misplaced grief, misplaced rage. Alisa saw that broadcast, and again, there was that picture that was taken earlier in the episode of Trish in the same car as Carl. So, because we've seen all season that when she's in her rages, she's not thinking straight. So her mind just makes the association. They were the last one seen. The news says there might have been a connection there. And in her grief, yeah, she does become monstrous. She kills someone. She busts out. And yeah, like you said, a very horror movie way. And even when we see her kind of at her most, I wouldn't say sympathetic, but pitiable, maybe. When she's cornered, she's panicked. Jessica's trying to reach out to her. She's desperate, and she still jumps out the window. I don't know if she knew that she would survive. I don't know if what she was planning, but she lived, and Officer Sunday didn't. So that's another, tally of people that she's killed, possibly without meaning to, but cool motive, still murder.
I'm not sure if Alisa would have survived the fall on her own or not, but I got the distinct impression that she used Sunday as a cushion as she was landing, or maybe disengaged from Sunday on the way down, and Sunday had no way to survive that fall. That was not going to end well, and it was very graphic when they didn't show the actual impact, but it was very graphic when they showed the aftermath.
The aftermath.
Let's talk about Gerry Hogarth, because Carrie-Anne Moss has been busy trying to get her stuff back, and it's not just getting her stuff back. There's an ulterior motive going on here, but her way to get to it is to get her stuff back and find out where the stuff's been pawned, because, of course, you steal stuff, you got to get rid of it somehow. Let's just pawn it off and then go from there. I was interested in what she was doing, her methodology, until I realized later on what was going on, which maybe we will see Foggy back, because she might need Foggy here in a second.
So a couple things about this whole sequence. One, if you've ever been robbed and you've had to start calling people after the fact, yeah, it's exhausting. It's dispiriting. It's not fun. And the other thing is, Frankie, the pawn shop owner who eventually, gives her some of her stuff back, is actually played by a trans actress. And would this be the first trans actress in a Marvel property? I think so.
Maybe. Yeah. Because I know over on DC, you have the character in Supergirl.
Yeah. This actress, though, I was looking her up on IMDb, and she's also very notable for being in the anniversary edition of Tokyo Godfathers, which is an anime, as a character who originally they trans culture, drag culture in Japan, very different from here. And in the original release was, voiced by a male actor. And in this version, they're like, you know what? Let's actually update it so that the character is trans. So they cast trans voice actresses. Very cool. And yeah, I think that's all I had to say about the pawn stuff.
Well, you also get Turk. Turk came up, and this is probably the only one scene that we get Turk in the entire series, but Turk has been the glue that has bound this Netflix Marvel universe together. He's been in every single series so far.
Well, you got to get your serial number filed off untraceable gun from somewhere.
Oh, Turk.
Okay. Oh, yes. Yeah. I'll need a favor from you sometime. So let's go ahead and do this. So yeah, we get Turk, which is great. And I didn't realize what Gerry was ultimately doing until she got Inez in the car. I thought it was just by happenstance that she met up with Inez first, but I think that's exactly what she wanted to happen. She wanted Inez to meet up, have a conversation, totally bluff Inez, and then give the gun to Inez and have them take care of each other. Shane did not take care of Inez. So Inez in the future could definitely still come back after Gerry. I think there's a loose end here.
Yeah, I had just assumed, she's going to take the gun and she's going to, threaten them, possibly kill one of them. No, I forgot that Gerry Hogarth has a twisted little mind with twisted little plans and is thinking like 8 steps ahead. So, as SP says, when Inez meets up with her and she's saying like, yeah, while you were in prison, while you were homeless, he's scamming all these women for money. He's getting, more than just the letters. He's getting, thousands of dollars into his commissary account and everything. And considering that Inez has had a very hard life since the whole IGH incident, considering that she spent time with Gerry, and I don't think I would say that she trusts Gerry, but there was enough going on there to actually kind of weaken her a little. Like she said, like, hey, you looked at me like this, and, I hadn't been touched like that in a long time. And yeah, Gerry just set it up perfectly. When she heard that gunshot go off, barely even a jump, she's on her phone, just very calmly, I'd like to report a shooting. She was planning this, and it's like her items. It's not really the principle of the thing. It's the fact that she let somebody see her vulnerable, and then they just used that vulnerability and just stabbed her. So it's like, you've hurt me, I'm going to hurt you back. It's, again, cycle of abuse.
Here's what I'm thinking, though. Inez is going to rat her out, and this is where I got the gun from. It was from Gerry.
Yeah, that doesn't matter. You've committed murder. It doesn't matter why you've done it. It's, probably because it was not, she probably could plead down to manslaughter.
Oh, it's definitely, it's like a manslaughter. I think, forget which one. I think it's 2 is the one where it's not premeditated. It's like a heat of the moment.
Here's the thing. You're taken in. Where do you get the gun? Oh, you get the gun from Gerry Hogarth. Really? One of the most respected yet feared district attorneys? How are you going to prove it? Well, we were in the car. We were talking. Why were you talking? Oh, I helped Shane, who I just shot, scam her out of hundreds of thousands of dollars worth of stuff. It's one of those things that the more Inez talks, the more Inez looks bad.
Yep. And I think that with that amount of money, of goods stolen, the prison sentence might actually be longer for that than for Man 2.
Yeah, because you're moving up into the millions of dollars that Gerry could probably list off as being stolen, at least hundreds of thousands of dollars. I know a felony is $2,000. That's the low bar.
Yeah, this was so much, like the bag alone is worth way more than that. And yeah, again, I'm not familiar with the penal code in New York State, but I'm pretty sure that she would probably get more time if she just said, like, I was mad and I shot him in the heat of the moment, or if it was like saying that it was self-defense, anything like that.
Yeah, I get what you're saying where it would be worse for her to do it, but Gerry is taking an awful risk, especially with gun laws in New York City.
It's a very calculated risk, though. And as we've seen, Gerry's a very calculating person, and nobody knows the law better than lawyers. I have several friends who are lawyers, including a DA in New York City. And there's actually, that show, How to Get Away with Murder?
Yes.
Yeah, it's because there's basically a class that's kind of that. I mean, it's, how I'm like, no, this is not advice. It's very much that, like, here is how people escape loopholes and stuff like that. Very fascinating stuff. I did not go to law school, but secondhand knowledge of.
Yeah, I've got a friend who's a lawyer, and apparently in the state that I'm in, the speed limit there's no actual law for the speed limit. It's more of a guideline. So whenever lawyers who know the law get a speeding ticket, that's what they bring up. I was going safe for the conditions, even though it was above the suggested speed guideline or whatever. I've heard of a lot of lawyers getting off onto that. So whatever.
Yeah, the legal system is fascinating and very twisty, and I do not have the right memory for it or the temperament.
Okay, the last thing that I want to bring up to talk about is the Jessica Jones and Alisa mother-daughter moments. You had the moment within Trish's hospital room in which Alisa ends up falling off with Sunday. You also had the moment later on in the morgue where Jessica basically, not the morgue, excuse me. You had the moment in Trish's apartment where they meet and Jessica is basically knocked out. And then they get into the RV, which Alisa has stolen, which, how easy is it to steal? I mean, can you even call that stealing the RV? I mean, basically you left it with the keys in right there. I mean, just can take it and go. Anyway.
Yeah, it's theft, but it's zero challenge theft.
Yeah. So anyway, they're taking the road trip that they've always wanted since this whole thing started 17 years ago, except for Jessica's knocked out, probably tied up in the bed in the back.
But then again, I have to bring up Dorothy. Before the first time when you see them with Trish, Dorothy, Jessica is just like, okay, fine, start blaming me. And Dorothy actually has a decent mother moment where she says when Patsy wants what Patsy wants, she goes out and she gets it. Can't really stop her. It really wasn't, you. And then she looks at Jessica, we're the only family we have now. And then she learns about Jessica's mom being a murderer and all this type of stuff. And she's so upset now. Just boom, just complete 180. It's your fault, Jessica. You need to stay away. Of course, I gave that interview because Patsy is her legacy. I have to protect Patsy's legacy, not Trish's legacy, but Patsy's legacy. And it's just like, really, Dorothy? Really?
Again, everything about Dorothy, it comes down to her. The way that Trish dresses, her career, everything. In fact, when there's a part where she's telling Trish, like, you're the culmination or something like that of like everything I wanted to be, just very, again, narcissistic. And again, for a little bit when she's like, oh, we're the only family each other have. It's all about me. It's what can you do for me? It's drawing attention back on me. And when she finds out, no, Jessica's real mom's in the picture, because it's no longer about her, because I'm no longer taking up all this attention in your mind. Yeah, she throws her out on her ass, basically. Dorothy's terrible.
With very few characters, we've gotten to a point in the penultimate episode, because that's what we're talking about, the penultimate episode here, Pray for Patsy. We've gotten to a point where it's going to be a very interesting finale. You've got Malcolm that's quit. You've got Trish that's crashed. You've got Jessica that's been kidnapped by Alisa. You've got Jessica and her mom together, which we didn't have at the beginning. You have the death of Carl and everybody as Simpson and everything. It's been quite the trip so far. So with very few characters, you've gotten to a point where you're like, I want to know what happens.
I just remembered when I said about Dorothy making it all about her with Trish. Trish thought she was dying at the time, and Dorothy still made it about herself. It was... I keep thinking it's like, okay, who are the worst characters on the show? Kilgrave, obviously, number one. I feel like Dorothy might be number two. Because even Gerry, you feel sorry for her because of, the ALS and because she's been betrayed here. I mean, she's still a bad person, but there's that little bit of sympathy. And Dorothy, just every time that we see her, she's just, oh, it's so much worse. It's so bad.
I mean, Alisa is a mass murderer, but she does have brain trauma and she was experimented on. We can only forgive so much when it comes to that. Yeah, I would have to put Dorothy at least at 3. Yeah, Dorothy, top 3.
I sympathize with Alisa more than her because, again, it's not entirely in her control. Dorothy, just every step of the way, is very consciously making the decision to make everything about her. And, again, however well-meaning in her case, because she wants to live through her daughter, has been ruining Trish's life this whole time and abusing her emotionally and sometimes physically. And it makes me so angry.
So I want to just make sure what we're talking about. We're talking about the confines of the Jessica Jones series. We're not opening it up to the Defenders, right?
No, just Jessica Jones, season 1, season 2.
I can't argue then. All right, you looking forward to the finale episode, Lauren?
I absolutely am.
Yeah. And Michelle, you finally looking forward to not having to hold anything back?
Yes, actually I am.
All right.
It'd be nice for a change because I knew all about Cloak and Dagger, both seasons. So Cloak and Dagger 1, Cloak and Dagger 2. I already watched Runaways. Right? Yeah. And then like, yeah, Jessica Jones. It's going to be nice. Yeah, Legion. It's going to be nice.
Yep, I'm looking forward to it as well. So next time, we're going to be talking about the finale season 2 Jessica Jones episode, aka Playland. Meantime, we at least have one news article to talk about.
Yeah, well, our news article is about Deborah Ann Woll not being able to get work.
Yeah, so we know her as Karen Page. She also had she was basically in all of the seasons of True Blood. And she's an amazing dungeon master on her show Relics and Rarities on Geek and Sundry. And she just had an interview with Joe Quesada, who is, formerly worked with Marvel, on his podcast, Joe Q's Morning Warm-Up. And she said, she got really emotional, apparently. She said, I'm just really wondering whether I'll get to work again, whether anyone wants to work with me again, and whether I still have it, all of those scary things. And part of my brain goes, no, you're being crazy, calm down. But the part of me that loves acting and the problem with being an artist and an actor, and any of these professions where you put a piece of your soul into your work, is that it becomes a part of your identity. She has had some stuff come out since the end of the MCU, of her work with the MCU. But the thing is, apparently it was all filmed a long time ago. And now with, the whole quarantine and everything, there's not a lot being filmed. And yeah, she hasn't had an acting job since the end of The Punisher. And I don't know why, because she's talented, she's attractive, she's smart, she's funny. She definitely deserves, a really good career. And I'm furious about this, actually. a lot of her coworkers have been tweeting in support of her. In fact, Vincent D'Onofrio, Kingpin from Daredevil, said that she was one of his favorite scene partners in his entire career to work with because she gives so much of herself back.
We were talking about this before the show. I absolutely adored her. And I believe my direct words were, she has done a heck of a lot with that character. And she really has, since episode 1 of Daredevil on through the Punisher and Defenders and everything else. She has been amazing in every single scene she's been in. Sometimes you might question her motive, but that's just her playing the character and what she's been given with the character. And it's been very few and far between. And that's the character that you're questioning, not her acting. And she has been just great. So I'm actually scratching my head a little bit, although I don't know when her contract with Daredevil had exclusivity with her until. That's the one thing that, maybe she's only been on the market for so long, but
it doesn't sound like it.
Yeah, doesn't sound like it at all.
So I've been a fan of her since True Blood. I mean, I had a crush on her. She's gorgeous. Her character's funny. When the show turned into a big trash pile, I was basically just watching to see where her character was going. I've loved her appearances on things like Critical Role. I actually have a miniature of her character that she played on Critical Role. And again, her show Relics and Rarities, where she's the dungeon master. It's so fun and it's so interesting, and it brings like this physical element in. And she brought a bunch of her co-stars in. Charlie Cox was in an episode. She's wonderful at thinking on her feet. And you can see that she's just putting her heart and soul into telling these stories. And to know that, she got all of this acclaim as Karen Page and as Jessica in True Blood, and that despite that, people aren't reaching out to her. It blows my mind. I already have a low opinion of a lot of the Hollywood executives and stuff like that. And every time I hear, hey, this talented actor is being completely overlooked, it just kind of drives my opinion lower.
Yeah, I hope she finds work soon. And I know that nobody's being cast right now. I mean, heck, even The Bachelorette has to recast the guys in there, and nobody's being cast right now. But I hope she gets work.
Henry Cavill is painting Warhammer miniatures. It's, on the one hand, I really love seeing what people are doing to keep themselves busy when they're not, acting. A lot of it is, you go and you work 12-hour, 14-hour, 16-hour days, and you're inhabiting this other character, and then to all of a sudden be back in like normal life. I really love seeing what actors and wrestlers and people like that are doing. And on the other hand, people need work, like not just them, but like everyone. So
yeah, it's a big deal trying to get the country and the world, quite frankly, back to work now. And well, hopefully acting will be part of that, where they'll start doing virtual casting for projects and anticipatory of things going forward. By the way, talking about casting and stuff, in 1975, there was this movie from Disney, by the way, that came out. Marvel is part of Disney. It came out with an RV in it called Escape to Witch Mountain.
Yes.
I am pretty sure that there's no way to determine for sure, but I'm pretty sure that RV was the RV that Alisa stole.
Gonna have to check that now.
Yeah.
I just keep thinking of Spaceballs.
Yeah, could be anyone, but are we there yet?
Are we there yet?
What was the bumper sticker on the back of the RV?
That made me laugh.
So talking about RVs, let's go ahead and hop in the RV and get this one out, all right? Thanks to everybody that's downloaded and listened and watched this show. We really appreciate it. and we are looking forward to your feedback. We'll start incorporating some of the feedback again next time, especially since it'll be the finale, and as we saunter in to Luke Cage.
Yep. So send us your feedback. We love hearing from you. Everybody who's tweeted, or if you ever happen to jump into our live chat, if you are on our Discord, thank you so much for listening. And we hope that we're making your time at home a little bit easier.
Yes, thank you to everyone who downloads us, watches us on YouTube, however you consume our podcast. Thank you for sticking with us, not only during this time in our society, but also during this very long drought for the next season of Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., which we still have no idea when it's coming out. None.
I am scratching my head over that because it is in the can. ABC has nothing else going on. Just throw it into prime time on like Tuesday night. It would get ratings.
There's so many networks right now that are moving dates forward because, again, people are stuck at home. You have a captive audience. So for them, ABC has made a lot of really questionable decisions, and not pushing Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. into April, I think, is one of them.
And not only that, but I think this time last year, we knew when the show was coming back. You know, when networks make announcements on winter premieres and then they start talking about summer or spring premieres. I've heard news about some spring premieres, but nothing. Crickets. It's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
ABC, get your crap together.
I think part of it is the people making the decisions are also under stay-at-home orders, so they're having the same issues that a lot of the other industries are in actually being able to make those sorts of decisions. However, they're broadcasting, so they have to schedule what is being broadcasted, and I know that they're starting to run out of things that they can heck, Saturday Night Live. I didn't watch it. I didn't want to watch it, but that's the sort of show that I don't want to see. I watched The Deadliest Catch before the catch this week because the season was, I mean, they've already filmed everything and they're just throwing it out there now because it started in October of last year and then it ended just within the past month. But most of the episodes have already been chosen and filmed. They had I don't know what program that they were using. Let's just call it, they had the Skype episode where you had Mike Rowe that was interviewing everybody over Skype. And that wasn't so bad, but they included the hello, can you hear me? Can you see me in there? I'm like, that was the worst production ever. Come on, Discovery. Get your act
Tiger
together.
King just had a bonus episode drop, I think yesterday. And I watched it after I watched Jessica Jones today while I was like doing dishes. And it was another one of those like kind of Skyped in things, but they actually edited it. That is such a hard phrase to say. They did the editing on it. And so you don't have that tap, this thing on. It's just everybody's there. They do their interview, on to the next one.
It's funny that you bring that up because while we were podcasting, I got a message from Chris Farrell, who's my co-host on the Gonna Geek
Hi,
show.
Chris.
And Michelle and I used to do Starling Tribune with him. And he posted this, and he doesn't know I'm reading this. So, Chris, I'm sorry. I'll get your permission later. But he said, "Ugh, watching the final episode of Tiger King. Don't judge. It's all people on iPhone with AirPods put on screen. I could produce this. Any podcaster has better tools."
I mean, yes.
Also, people are realizing that your video can be UGG and your audio. It's like people don't realize, they're learning quickly that, the audio's more important than the video. Yes.
So anyway, back to the original point here is, why is ABC not putting on Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. final season right now, where it could get a heck of a lot of ratings, and then they could make all the former seasons available for everybody so they could get caught up, and it would be amazing. Advertisers would love it right now.
They could even just start doing reruns of like last season in anticipation of, the new one.
I'm not so sure that would get the ratings. I think you'd have to stream it online, but Yeah, you could do
There's things they could do.
the things.
Things.
So once again, Marvel, I got 2 great ladies. I actually had 3, just Haley's not here, that are available for your consulting at any point in time. They can write scripts. They can go ahead and be producers, behind the scenes. I don't think anybody wants to direct, but they could be involved with your projects and make them better.
Our fees are very reasonable.
Yeah, just contact me, Stargate Pioneer at GettyGeek.com. I will get you in touch with them and take my 20% agent fee.
10. Agents have 10.
15. All right, until next time, I'm Director SB.
I'm Agent Lauren.
And I'm Agent Michelle.
We'll see you guys next time. Bye.
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 Thank you for listening. If you want to leave us feedback, go to gonnageek.com and you will find all our contact information and other shows. You can also visit legendsofshield.com where you'll find our complete archive of podcasts. The music heard on this podcast is by Kevin MacLeod, found at incompetech.com, and also artists on pond5.com and audiojungle.net. The opinions heard on this podcast are those of the individual hosts and do not represent Stargate Pioneer Productions, Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D, or Gonna Geek. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. is the property of the Disney Corporation, Marvel Studios, and ABC. No infringement is intended. Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D. is copyright 2013 through 2020.